Hi, everyone. How are you today? I'm Rachel Chamness at Soundwaves Heal. And today I wanted to talk about building a sacred circle, building a sacred sphere, building a sacred space, and setting up your altar, why you would need an altar and what you can do about it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I do have a video about this already. I have several actually, and you can see all my videos on YouTube, or it's even easier if you get my free channeling spirit guides course, which would be at soundwavesheal.com/spirit guides. Let me see. Here we go. So you can always find it here. If you're overwhelmed by all the videos that I put out, then they have an order here or in my tag group, of course, or any of my courses. But I wanted to do a new one because I wanted to really talk about it. Okay, so making myself a note here. I've got a whole list of notes. All right. So let's just wait a second and see if some more people come on. I've got it live here. Oh, I got to add another live. Here we go. Okay. So, building a sacred circle. Why build a sacred circle? You want to always have a beautiful space of high vibration to do your channeling or your healing work. So, healing is also channeling. So, I'm talking about healers, I'm talking about channels, or even if you're just pulling cards for yourself, or if you're just trying to communicate with your guides, which is a really important thing to do. That's why I do have a free spirit guide course, channeling your spirit guides, on my website at soundwavesheal.com/spirit guides, because I think it's very, very important. And I'm also talking about protection, but this is different from regular protection. Like, it's just really nice to have an energetic containment, for you to have a ritual, for you to have this space where you do your work, because you can layer high vibrational energy in this space. And then every time you come back, it's almost like you pick up where you left off. So if I use this space over and over, it's going to help me go deeper as it layers so much spiritual. It's a spiritual capsule of high vibration. And every time I come back to it, it's even higher, right? And I can pick up where I left off. And that doesn't mean that I can't do it in other places. I can. But when you are practicing your work, you want to be able to reach these higher dimensional states. You want to be able to reach them, and then you can do it again in other places. But here's the place where you can go as deep as you can, as in higher dimensional space, receive more information than normal, because you have built this container of sacred space, of high dimensional space. So when you do it in another place, you will have that experience, and you'll be able to do better in a non-sacred, continual sacred space place too. And you can build a sacred space anywhere, but I just want to talk about how important it is to build it in your space. When you build a sacred space here and you just use it and use it, I know I've already said this, but it's so amazing. When you just use it and use it, you can really feel the energy in here. When people come in this room where I've built a sacred space by using a sacred circle every day for the 4 years that I've lived here, they love this room. I have a hard time keeping my kid out of here. Everybody wants to use this room. And it's a tiny, tiny room that I use for an office. And everyone loves it because it feels so good. But you can also make it anywhere. But it's always nice to have that one space where you continually work. So I'm going to teach you how to do it. So, what is a sacred circle? It is a space that you have protected with. The way that I do it is I protect it with crystals, I protect it with angels, and I protect it with just all of this energy that I'm putting into the circle. And I'm using an altar as well, which helps. And then I can come back in here all the time. So like I said, it's different from regular protection. And the more that you use it, the more the energy builds. Now, why do I use an altar? So I do have a picture I wanted to show you of my altar. Oops. Well, let me share my screen. I think that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, here's a picture of my altar right now. This is what my altar looks like. Hold on. Let me move it over a little bit. Let's see. Here we go. Can you see it? So this is what my altar looks like right now. Okay. Well, I was trying to make it bigger. So this is right behind me, but I took a picture before we started. So you'll see that I have different sides to it. And these are just my candles. You can kind of see them here. Well, when I get large screen again, you'll see it. And this is the space here. If you can see my arrow, this is earth. No, sorry. This is water. That's a mermaid fluorite there. This is earth. This is air. And this is fire. Okay. We'll come back to it. But this is an altar that I put here to help me bring in this sacred space. So there's two ways to set up your sacred space. One is to take crystals and put them in the four corners, or if you can't really get to the four corners, you can just do the altar. I'm a kind of like to hit all my bases person, so I put them in all four corners and I put them in the altar. So I kind of do both. The altar calls in the four corners of space, which we will talk about calling in angels in all four corners and calling in air, water, earth, and fire. And then I also call in below earth and above ascension energies, sacred energies of source, whatever you want to call in from above. We'll talk about that too. So, okay, let's talk about protection for just a second. Like, why should we do protection? Do we really need all this protection? Is it really important? That sort of thing. There's a big thing of, well, the protection is important until you don't need it, or it's important to do protection until you don't need it, right? So until you can bring your vibration high all the time enough to be just feeling that you are divinely protected all the time, you trust and know your spirit guides and your angels that well that you know you're always protected, then it's great to have protection. I use lots of protection. You can see here from my Etsy store at Soundwave Sale, I've got my 4D shield stickers, and I have protection in this room. I have protection in the house. I clear the sacred space here inside and outside and my yard all the time. And I think it's really important. However, because I do that, I feel very relaxed, and I also trust my guides and helpers, and I know that I'm divinely protected. But it's always like steps of really understanding that. And it's true, you are a bright light, sure, but that doesn't need to be a scary thing. You're a bright light, and negative things notice you, but that's okay because you're vibrating higher than they are. And anything that happens to come into your space, entities, anything that needs to be cleared, that's just all a part of learning, and you will always win. It's not the movies, which are, part of a huge Hollywood cult. Yes, it's true. I'm sure you already know that. This is real life, and good does win. Good does vibrate higher than negative, right? Positive is higher than negative. So you are safe. Okay, so light does invite, curiosity from lower energy beings and interdimensionals. Just a quick note about interdimensional beings. They're not negative, but they can be tricky because they like to see things happen, and they can also kind of be tricky energy. So we also want to include that in keeping it out. So the intention is always really important. You're making an intention of clearing a space, of keeping a space for protection and for holding higher dimensional light. So that's your whole intention here. We want to build a space that could hold such high dimensional light and vibration that I could just do anything, that I could learn how to use my skills in my channeling, healing, or messages, whatever I'm channeling, or even just speaking to my guides or channel writing. And I'm going to bring it in, and I'm going to raise the vibration, the frequency so much in here that I'll be able to do more. And it's like, this is wonderful. This is what I want to do. So Just that knowledge and having these boundaries just increases the safety of your channeling. So this is why I always recommend that we do a big sacred circle before trance channeling. So as you probably know, I teach trance channeling, and I have a beginner to intermediate class I start with, and it builds from there. And that is where I start, and then I have higher classes as well to go farther. But my main course is a full channeling course. It includes all kinds of channeling and trance channeling, especially. And so I give them this video about how to make a really safe sacred circle so that they can relax, my students, and just work on trance channeling and work on it without having to worry about any kind of interference. And that's the same with you. If you want to try something new, if you want to just really concentrate on what you're doing, then it's nice to know that you're divinely protected. So, um, now let's talk about preparation. So, when you're going to be channeling, it's really important that you don't drink alcohol, do any kind of dulling substances, any kind of drugs, because it's going to really it's going to dull your ability to sense your surroundings. Okay. So no alcohol. And there's just a few things you want to avoid. No alcohol. Cannabis is that's a sort of iffy one. So for some people, you want to discern how it affects you. For some people, smoking cannabis, or however you want to use it, it can heighten your abilities to channel. And for some people, it does the opposite. For me, it does the opposite. So it makes me feel like I am completely unprotected, that I can't feel anything, and it makes me really nervous. So I really hate it. But let's say that you're using cannabis and it's helping you. Well, then I would ask you not to use cannabis and do it because you want to know how you can do it without any help of any substance that you may not have at a time that you need to channel, right? So, no alcohol, no cannabis, no opiates or prescriptions. If you take any opiates or prescriptions for back pain or any kind of pain, if you take any mood stabilizers, these can really close down your clairs a lot. I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just asking you that if you do that, that you keep that in mind. That might be keeping you from channeling as well as you want to. And that you might want to work with your doctor or holistic doctor to help you find another way to deal with your pain, or to work on your mood in other ways if possible. And always be aware that sometimes the prescriptions we take for balancing our chemistry is really about understanding your psychic ability to feel other people's feelings, and having a problem with learning what's yours and what someone else's. And so definitely you have to use a doctor for that to see if you really need that kind of mood stabilization. Maybe you do, or if it's some sort of psychic thing you need to figure out. But here's the bottom line. You want to be fully aware. Awareness is protection. You want to know what's happening, and you want to be able to do it in any circumstance so that you don't need something to help you do it. So when I teach it, of course, I'm teaching you, and it's a really safe place to mess up or whatever. So in my class, we come, and we work on it when it's okay to mess up, because we're learning. And that's how I teach the class. So I also just recommend that for you as well. And you never want to, if you're not sober and you're doing it, if you're like drinking a lot and you're trying to trance channel or channel anything, that is a really terrible way to try and bring in information, because there will be almost no way you can bring in the light that way. You will be attracting all kind of dark entities, and you won't be able to protect yourself. That's the bottom line. So there's a whole, you know, there's a whole like graph there, or, of just maybe using a little cannabis to help you, or I take these prescriptions to, just drinking too much and trying to channel. That's like, but I'm saying for all of it, it's good. Just, try to just use yourself and not something to help you all the time. Now, if you want to do some sort of like supervised, ceremony where you use something to help you see in higher dimensions, that's really fun and cool. Use someone who can really help you and is experienced. That's totally cool. I'm just saying, when you're not doing that, you want to be really fully aware of what you're doing. And because you want to make this part of your life, this is not just a one off, right? We want to be able to bring in our spirit guides. We want to be able to hear them or get their messages. We want to be able to keep ourselves safe. You want to get that warning message. Hey, you need to go to the doctor. This is the kind of thing that keeps you from finding out that you are in a higher level cancer situation, or you have something that could have been prevented, or that you're having something happen medically, or that, if you had left earlier, you would have gotten in that car accident. Like, these are the things that keep you safe in everyday life, because your guides are guiding you. And it's always that thing where I knew I should have done such and such. Why didn't I do it? That's your guides talking to you. So opening these channels, it's really, really important. Okay, so the other preparation is just to clear your energy. You don't want to come into your space to start channeling where you are just, I'm all upset at my husband or my kid, or I'm just, it's been the worst day. Like, you need to take a moment, clear yourself, use Reiki. This is why I recommend everyone use Reiki on yourself, or use a meditation, have something there's got to be something that you have that you can use. Otherwise, you can go to my YouTube page, Soundwaves Heal, and there's lots of meditations and clearings and healings on there that you can use. So you just want to clear your energy, grounding is really important for channeling as well. Now let's talk about the crystals. So this is like how you're really prepping physically. Crystals always lend their protection to help us. You'd be surprised. When I first started working with crystals, I just worked with them because I thought they were pretty and I just felt drawn to them. And I didn't know that they were lending their help, and they can lend their help. I talk to my crystals and they are lending their help all the time. There's a ton of crystals in this room and they help bring me up higher with vibration. So use your crystals. So this is what I recommend: 4 quartz crystals in the corners of your room or circle, your sacred circle. I also recommend that you can put them on your altar. So there's 2 ways you can do the crystals and the 4 corners of calling in angels and everything on your altar, or you can do them in the corners of the room. But I find that's really hard to do air, water, earth, and fire in the corners of the room. Like, it's going to get swept up. It's hard enough to keep your little crystals there, right? So I have an altar with that. We'll talk about that. But first I put the crystals. So I put a quartz crystal, 4 corners of the room. If your room is oddly shaped, then you may need more. So if your room's like an octagon, then you're going to need, 8 or 9 or whatever. So put that in the corners. And then you can also use these things: rose quartz for just expansion of the heart, for transmuting to love. You can use rainbow obsidian. It's good grounding and protection stone. You can use amethyst, and you can use black tourmaline. These are great crystals for all this. Fluorite's really good too. And I also use black tourmaline. There's a piece right here. I get really small, very inexpensive pieces, and I put them on top of the windows and the doors. And that's really helpful too. And the crystals that I have in the corners of this room are tiny, because how are they going to stay there? I mean, unless you get a huge one, you're going to need little tiny ones. I put them on the baseboards, and, I just try to make sure they don't get swept up. And then I also put some on my altar. So that's what I recommend for crystals, and they do need to be cleared pretty often. If you have Reiki 1, then you can walk around and clear them all, or if you have Reiki 2, you can sit here and distance clear everything on your property. I do that all the time. I think about each room, each place. So I put them in the 4 corners of this room. I put them in the 4 corners of the house, or 5 depending on the size. Put them in the 4 corners of my property, which mine is like a rectangle, so that's easy. I put extra rose quartz on the side of where I have a tricky neighbor, so that just, keeps my side with high vibrational love frequency. And, you may want to add to that. And I clear them all the time. Now, if you don't have Reiki, you could maybe clear them with salt, depending on what kind of crystal it is. You can't do that to selenite. You could get a selenite block, and you can clear them on that, or you can buy some sort of clearing station where you can clear your crystals. You can also clear them in the sunlight. I don't recommend the moon because I never do. I've got lots of videos on that, so we'll go on. Let's talk about the altar setup. Yeah, baseboards and over doors. Yeah. Thank you for commenting. I see you. All right. Let's see. This really isn't the greatest. Nope. Well, maybe. Okay, here's my altar set up. No, that's really not good, is it? Here I am trying to figure out how this works. Okay, that's a little better. Altar setup. I'm going to take this down so you can see my altar here. Okay, now what I do is I use my phone compass. If you have an iPhone, it has a compass app that comes with it, or you can use something else. I'm going to turn off the comments here. Okay, so here's my altar, and I use the north, south, east, west of my compass on my phone. And here we go. I have air, what I use for air here. You can use anything for air. The couple of things that might come up are, and air is in the east. I'm sorry. So here's east, air. And you can use feathers. I have feathers here. I have incense. See, here's my little incense thing. I don't have any incense on it at the moment. You could use instruments like a bell. Like if you have a small bell, I sometimes have a bell on there. Or like a small like flute. I have one right here. That's like the love frequency. It's a little tiny flute like this big, and you can blow it. I might put that there. You don't have to go and buy a bunch of stuff. You could just, just any kind of symbol that symbolizes air for you will work. And I also have a fairy there. See my little fairy, which could be air or earth, but this one was, it's opalescent. So it made me think more of air. Now here is south. This is fire. A white candle is a wonderful thing to use. Now, notice I have sage over here in the east. So if I want to light that sage, I'm going to use a white candle always, because when you remove negative energy, you need to replace with positive energy so that it doesn't leave a void. And that's really important. So if you use a white candle, that's automatically replacing it with positive energy. Although if you use angel fire, that's also great, or Reiki or anything like that, you can clear the energy there. And I do teach angel fire for just a few dollars on my site. So I've got a candle here. I did just put some rocks around this because I just thought it was pretty. That's not really that much part of the sacred circle. But the fire, that's all I have in this corner, and that's good enough. I sometimes see up here this, what is that called? Septarian, sort of like a dragon stone-ish. It looks like a dragon egg. That's in the earth corner right now, but sometimes I put it over here. But I kind of keep this space clear because sometimes I put a plant there. I'm not going to lie. It gets better light, so sometimes take it down. Okay, so right here, this is water. You can put a little tiny thing of water if you want, but I feel like that's going to spill, so I don't. I use seashells. Here's a oyster shell that we got from the beach. Here's just a green stone. It just I think it's adventuring, but it just reminded me of the sea. And this is a fluorite that has a mermaid on it. So mermaids, just anything blue. This is the west corner. So this is water. And yeah, so we've got west, water, east, air, south, fire, and north, earth. Earth is very simple. I just used a few crystals. Here's a good grounding crystal. It's just flew out of my head. It's a very easy to find stone. It's a big palm stone right there. I'll think of it in a second. And then the dragon egg, I can never remember the name of crystals. And then I have a bunch of just river rocks here. I put symbols on it, my Reiki symbols. I just like having that. So I put that there. Okay. Now that is the north, earth. And you can also do anything like fairies, something like animals like or like frogs, anything that like represents earth to you is fine. And then we call in our archangels. So once this is set up and you have the crystals in four corners, now we're actually doing the sacred circle. That's where we're calling in the archangels. So in the north, in earth, we can call in Uriel. That's Uriel, Archangel Uriel. And we call him in his angel fire colors. If you want to think about the energy, the colored energy he's bringing in, that would be ruby, red, and gold. So you can think of him calling in Uriel in the north with ruby, red, and gold. And you can also say, I get kind of elaborate, like who helps us with, fixing problems, or connects us to earth, or connects us to 5D earth, right? Then I may go to, it doesn't matter which order you do it. And if you have different angels in different spaces and that's how you've always done it, that's also fine. This is the way I do it. And it's pretty standard, but it's not going to be wrong. It's not like the angels are going to be upset with you. So in the east, Raphael, that's the air corner right here, east with air. Call in Raphael, Archangel Raphael, with his emerald angel fire, emerald light coming into the body with air. And you can kind of even think of that like as like green smoke, since it's air. I think that's kind of fun. You don't have to, but then we have the south here. This is Michael, Archangel Michael, protection. Like, what do you think of when you think of Archangel Michael? He's got his flaming blue sword. He's got blue angel fire light. You can imagine that coming into your space. You know, he's coming in from the south with fire, and you call him in to help you transmute lower frequencies to love, or to cut all cords, release all attachments and stories, clear you in every way. That's the kind of thing that I ask. And then I might even say, it's not necessary, but you can say, and stand in my south corner for protection. Or even better than protection is for transmutation of lower frequencies to love, right? Because when we talk about protection, it can kind of come from a fear-based place. But when we ask for transmutation, it's a little bit better, right? And then here's water. This is Gabriel, calling in Gabriel in the west with water, with diamond white light. And you can even think about his diamond white dragons bringing that in. So that's pretty cool. Here, I'll have another picture. I don't know how to get to it. Well, I guess this is a good enough picture. So this is the picture here. Okay. So, and then of course, I like to call in, like, not pictured, the vertical plane. This is the horizontal plane. You'll see though that I do keep a few little quartz crystals in the middle or something to represent the vertical, horizontal, the vertical plane. But sometimes I put a selenite in the middle. Actually, that reminds me, I think I'd like to do that again. And that kind of helps me think of like ethereal, So we call in Sandalphon from below, who is connected to ascended earth, or you could call in Gaia as well if you want, and bring that silvery light, is how I see it. Bring that silvery light up into the room. And then above, we call in Metatron at the Ascension Gate, bring in gold light is his light, or orange light, bringing in orange light, which is his light, or gold light, which is the light of the Ascension Gate or of source energy. So you can just kind of think like a golden, orange, or gold, or whatever you want, and bringing that down as well. So I'm bringing all this down for my altar. I also want to think about bringing it into the room. So I bring it down for the altar, for the room. Well, why not all three? And then also myself, so that I'm surrounded by these angels in all 6 places. So as my altar is doing it for the room. But I'm also thinking about when I bring in that light, that it's surrounding the room as well, so that the room itself is like in all this colored light. I'm in all this colored light, and the altar is the representation of that. All right, so the next thing is, if you want some extra tools for your sacred circle, sage removes heavy energy. It's not going to remove entities. And again, you want to use a white candle, like I mentioned before, because that's really important. And, you can use Palo Santo or frankincense or different kinds of, this is some different kind of sage. And you can keep all that there if you want in your air corner. So I call in all the archangels, spirit guides, angelic teams, I call them the north, south, east, and west, above and below. And I light the candle when I do it. So I'm going to light the candle, and I'm going to just call them in, just like I did before. Archangel Michael in the south with his flaming sword of blue, his blue energy, standing in the south to transmute lower frequencies of love. Calling in Uriel in the north. I'm just going to go through the whole thing. And we can do the whole thing at the end if you want, if that helps. So now that we've called them in, another great thing to say is I only work with beings of the light. This is a great say aloud, what's the word? But it's a great sentence to say that really makes a big difference. It's your intention. I only work with beings of the light. And you can say it all the time. So let's talk about discernment just a little bit. We only work with beings of the light. We only work with our spirit guides and our angelic team and our other teams that are of the light. And here's a few just quick ways to know if you're not working with the light. Okay. If a being is like boosting your ego or trying to tell you you're the very best, or trying to get you involved in some like twin flame situation, or like pushing you to do something, it just doesn't feel right, then it may not be. It could be trickster energy, because light beings feel calm, wise, heart-centered. They boost you by telling you, be brave, you're doing the right thing. It may even be a little bit boring at first, and that's okay. That's how it starts. When you first start channeling, your guides are a little bit boring. They're telling you boring things. That's all right. That's how you grow. If your guide's like telling you that, you're this exalted being, only you can do these things and things like that, that kind of ego boost, and, that's probably a trick. Sometimes they even open your senses all the way. So you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then they take it all away once they've been cleared, if someone cleared them. And then people like chase that forever. Like, I got to get that back. My clairs were open and now they're not. Sometimes there's a reason for that. And you have to build your clairs open a little at a time. And that's how your spirit guides usually do it. Sometimes they do open you all the way. But, if you ever go through that where it's like way open and then not, there's a couple of things it could be. You could be not clear. You could be not grounded. You could be going through something. Your guides could be trying to show you how to use other clairs. But sometimes it's a trick. So I recommend that you don't chase those clairs you used to have, and try to build them like slowly and surely in the light. Okay. Dark and trickster energy can feel urgent, can be chaotic, use a lot of flattery. It could use any kinds of manipulative techniques. So I only work with beings of the light, and trust your feeling sense. Experience will teach you all this. As you take a class and you start to get into channeling, you might experience trickster energies, false spirit guides, things like that. I have some videos on that. And that's just normal. That's how you learn to discern. Your guides will allow you to go through some of these things so that you can learn how to discern, and it's important. Now, if you do client or group work, I teach this in my psychic Reiki healing classes. You can always say this right before you start. So let's you set up your altar, you lit your candle, you called in a sacred space, and then you'll say, let nothing of mine attach to the client. Wait, that's not right. You'll say, let nothing attach to me attach to my client, and let nothing attach to my client attach to me. Okay. And you're going to say this, even though you're totally clear. It is like an insurance policy. And you're going to say this so you don't pick up other people's attachments before you can clear them. And I think that's really important. So let nothing attach to me attach to my client. Let nothing from my client attach to me. And if it's a class, let nothing from anyone in this class attach to each other. And then you can always reinforce your personal shielding of this whole circle with angel fire. Now let's talk about travel or temporary altars. I do have some nice little banners here. Travel or temporary altars. So here's a cool thing. And I bought this from H&G Emporium, Danielle and Missy's shop. And it's really cool. It is, so it has like the flower of life on it's a temporary altar bag, and it came with all kinds of things. I mean, I've been using it for a while. So it came with chakra stones. I could use these chakra stones to do a little session. I could use this as like my grid, right? That's really neat. But when I go out of town, this is the bag I take. Oh, I didn't realize it had all this in here. I could have been showing it to you. I got little quartz. I've got bigger quartz. I've got lots of quartz for the four corners. They're not all the same, and it doesn't matter. Some of them are really small. So let's say I'm going on vacation. I'm going to put these in the corners of the house, and then to protect, and then I'll pick them up after I'm gone. We've got rose quartz, got some tourmaline, and we have some grounding stones that I have in there as well. And I'll just make an altar at the new place with the stones. I'll call in my angels, and I'll put some, a piece in each corner of the place, and I'll pick them up when I leave. That's the last thing I pick up. After you put these stones out, what you want to do is just, call in the sacred circle. That's why it's part of the sacred circle. So you don't just put them in and just leave them there. You're going to put them in, and you're going to, do the sacred circle. And so it's like all connected. Like you can even imagine there's like a big sphere of light all around you. So that's a that is a temporary travel altar, but you can also have a movable circle. So a movable circle is one that you're bringing with you. And this is something that I do every day. I call in my angels on all four corners, above and below, for it to be around me. I'm the circle, right? They're just protecting me everywhere I go. So I can go outside and channel out there. I mean, I can channel anywhere. I just like to have this room where I can reach higher and I can do it better in here, right? This is where I'm going to record my videos or my TV show. Like, this is where I'm going to do it. So I want it to be the best. And this is where I'm going to go when I need to do something hard or new. But I can go anywhere else and do it. I just use a movable circle, or I can call in a circle or call in my angels over there. So there's lots of ways that you can do that. And then you can also bring, if you're going somewhere, you can also bring like a little candle and feather and shell, things like that, for a little altar as well. But I usually just bring the crystals, and then I call in the angels. But for movable circle, you don't really need anything, but you just call in the angels around you, and it helps. So that's why when I said I call in the angels, I said I call them in for myself, I call them in for the altar, and I call them in for my room. I'm just doing all three at once because let's make it simple. Okay. And then once you're done with your circle and you're ready to go, you can always thank your archangels and guides and elements and helpers. Why not? Thank them. I used to say that you had to like set the circle, and then you had to like make yourself a door, and you'd walk out, and you'd have to reestablish it when you come back. But I've learned that the circle just stays here. It's a protected space, and it just builds. I can go out and get a glass of water and come back in. I don't have to do anything special. I just, allow it to work. But I do need to make sure I'm clear and that I'm grounded, I'm connected to my higher self. That's all the things that I do to make channeling really great. And maybe this is a little bit of a long video where I'm talking about all the different things, but really it's very simple. Okay. I walk into this room, I've got a live, and I want to go live and I want to talk to you. So what do? I go right over here to my altar. Let's see if I can put it back on. Can I add it? Oh, I was here maybe? It'd be great if I could remember where I was. Okay. So I walk over here, I light the candle, I say, Archangel Michael in the south. I call in Archangel Michael in the south with fire, with sapphire blue light, bring in that light all around me. And here's where I'm at. Imagine it's coming in all around me and in the room. And then I do extra stuff. I say, please cut all cords, release all stories and attachments, and clear me completely. Stand in my south corner for protection and transmutation of lower frequencies to love. Okay. And then I'll kind of look or touch or think about this north. And this is the order that I do it, but it doesn't matter. I call in Uriel in the north, and I call in his ruby red light, his golden light. I call in Earth and his help with transmutation as well. Then I'll call in the east, Archangel Raphael. And here, if I'm standing over my altar, I'm probably going to light some sage for a minute with that candle. And it doesn't matter if I haven't called in the south yet. Sometimes I start with the east. So I'm calling in Raphael with emerald green light, with healing on the earthly plane. Please stand in the east corner to transmute lower frequency energies to love. Then I'm going to think about this little section. I call in Gabriel in the west, calling his I call in his diamond white light and the element of water to come in and transmute lower frequency energies to love. And then I call below Sandalphon, bringing that silvery light up. I call above Archangel Metatron, bringing that gold and orange light in. And then I just imagine it all around my body, all around the room, and I feel the frequency rise. And I bet you can feel that too. Now, I know you could have all kinds of questions. In fact, I'm going to check your questions right now for those who are live. You may have all kinds of questions like, well, what if I do it wrong? What if I do it a different way? What if I just call in some and then I forgot to say earth? I always forget to say fire when I call in Michael. I know I do that all the time. You'll probably hear me do that all the time. Then I go back and say, oh, and fire like the south. So it doesn't really matter. It's intention, and you you call them in and you just get used to it. I try to make sure I say all the things, but I don't always, and that's okay too. You're just calling them in and you're also trusting that they understand your intention. And the more that you do it, the more you could probably mess up because they understand what you're doing. It is a ritual. When you do this kind of ritual, you're really preparing yourself. So you remember how I said, like, don't come in when you're all like, oh, upset and I had the worst day and now I got to channel, I mean, of course that's going to happen. So what you do is you come in, you set the circle. It's a ritual. It kind of gets you back into the space. You're going to ground into 5D earth. You're going to maybe connect up to your higher self. And you're going to maybe do some Reiki on yourself if you need to calm down, if you need to restart. Maybe you'll listen to a meditation or a healing on YouTube. I've got lots of mine on Soundwaves Heal YouTube channel. And you can just do that. And then when you feel clear and grounded and ready, then you can do your channeling work. So that's what I always do. It served me really, really well. I hope that it's very helpful to you. I know that this makes a big difference for those who want to channel. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. It's not that much when you just look at it and start to do it. Once you start to do it, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. So I hope that helped you. I think sacred circles are just the best. They're really helpful. I also, add on to that. There's more that I teach about that in my psychic Reiki healing courses, like about sacred spaces for teaching classes and things like that. So there's more, but that's the basics. And that's what you need to know. So if anyone has a question, I'd love to hear it. You can put it in the comments below if you're watching replay, or if you're here live, I will be happy to answer your question. And I would love it if you're on YouTube, if you would take the time to make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Sometimes you think you are and you're not. And it would be really great if you followed me. And if you like this video, to like it. It helps me out a lot to give you lots of free content. So I love to give out a lot of free content, but it's so nice too when I get the subscribes and the likes. It helps me. So thank you so much. And if you are wanting to learn how to channel, how to trance channel, how to channel in 6 ways, that's my beginner course. It also is a great place to start, even if you're intermediate, because we work with trance channeling in every class. And really, all of my work is designed to get you advanced really quickly. So you can come in at the very beginner state, or you can come in as an intermediate. Now, there are some prerequisites to joining my classes, but I can just help you get there. No matter where you're at, I can help you advance. And I think it's really important at this time in Ascension that we do that. So I love to help. So just let me know if you ever need help. And thank you so much for coming. And I'm looking forward to seeing your questions. So I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks and bye. Thank you for watching. I'm Rachel Chamness at soundwavesheal.com. I love to help lightworkers trans-channel messages, light, and healing in higher dimensions. If you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and follow on social media. And consider checking out my Tag Lightworkers monthly mentorship program.